Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jenny will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. And today I have with me actually someone who I've known for a long time. I've known her for a little over 5 years now, and we became friends because of contact mapping. If you guys have been listening long enough, Badass Crew, you probably remember me talking about contact mapping back in the day. And Francoise Maricle and I met through contact mapping. But there's so much more to Francoise than that. She is a World War II survivor, born prematurely in a Japanese internment camp in Indonesia. She lived through 3 brutal camps as a child and was displaced to the Netherlands, where her family faced rejection and scarcity. And ultimately, she built a life of peace, resilience, and personal power in the United States. Francoise, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jenny, and thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. When your publisher reached out to say, hey, Francoise says she knows you and she wants to be on the show, I was like, abso-freaking-lutely. I love her story, and I think it's an incredibly powerful one. So what made you want to share your story now?
Well, I've always wanted to share it. Actually, I've wanted to share it for about 30, 40 years already, because I was working with abused women and they never would want to, they didn't think they could change anything. And then, so finally, when I told my story, what I had all endured and everything, all of a sudden the little lights went on in their heads and they said, oh, if you could do that, maybe I can do that. So for a long, long time, I've wanted to help people that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how this would be inspiring for somebody going through their own journey as well. And I know that you first published this book, and I don't know if it had the same title or whatever, but you first published your story in 2007, and you're publishing it now again. What made you want to bring this back to the forefront?
Well, I wanted to bring it back to the forefront in '07, but I had no way of knowing how to promote it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very much like, I have no idea. So it never went anyplace. So I thought, well, I'll give it another second chance. This is the 80th anniversary that the war ended in Indonesia.
Oh,
So
wow.
on August 15th, 1945 is when the war ended and we got freed from the Japanese. So I figured, and Connie agrees with me, this was a really, really good time to bring up that story, because a lot of people don't know where Indonesia is. They don't know that there was a war with Japan. And even that, I talked to some younger Japanese people that were born after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually told me I was a liar, that never happened, that the Japanese didn't do that, because since they lost the war, it's not in their history books. So I wanted everybody in the world to know, yes, we had the camps in Germany, but we also had the camps in Indonesia. So, I just wanted people to know about that.
Right. And
And that they can survive. I survived. Yeah.
right. So let's dig a little into that. So you were actually born in one of those camps. I mean, that's how I introduced you. What are the memories that you have from your young childhood and what was happening in those camps?
I don't have any memories, which may or may not be good, because they were so scary. I saw such bad things happening to the women, and but I have certain situations that I get in or that I see that it's like a big heavy log is falling on me, because I get really scared. We lived in Wisconsin. We bought this house, and the house had all those little, those instead of big panes, they had all
Yeah.
this little, yeah, I told my husband, I said, I cannot live here unless you change the windows because I just cannot live there like that. So there's certain situations that I still feel really bad about, but I don't have any memories at all. So because
Okay.
I was only a little over 3 years and 4 months or something when the war was over. And
Yeah.
that
So, did you ever have conversations with your parents about what they remember, what they experience?
Now, my dad did not want to talk about it at all. And he was in a man camp in Burma, and he had a really rough time, and he hated the Japanese for forever and ever. And my mother never really talked about it either until after my dad had died. And then she told me a few things about this and that. And I had a friend at one time, she's died in the meantime, but she was in the same camp with us. So she told me a little bit about, she was 5 years older than I was. So she did remember things, but I don't remember anything. So,
Right. Very
which,
young age.
yeah, which is probably really good because there was so much horrible, horrible abuse going on there in the camp.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I know, obviously, I know a little bit of your story because we've been friends and we've had conversations about that. So, how did you end up getting from the camps in Indonesia back to Europe?
Okay. The Indonesia at that time belonged to the Netherlands. It was a colony of the Netherlands.
Okay.
And before we got put in the camps, the Japanese had approached the Indonesian people, and they said, "We know that you don't want to be under the Dutch people anymore. When we win the war, we'll let you be free from the Dutch people." Well, then they didn't win the war. And you know what's really silly, Jenny? Before the war or during the war, we were told, be careful for the Japanese, be on your best behavior, etc., etc. Then when the war was over, and now the Indonesian people did not get their freedom because the Japanese couldn't give it them, they became our enemies. And now, all of a sudden, from one day to the next, we had to go to the Japanese for help and support. So that was
Wow.
really confusing for little kids, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And so from there, did the Japanese help get you back to the Netherlands, or how did
No,
that
I
occur?
think the Red Cross maybe or somebody from the
Okay.
Netherlands, but we all had to get out as soon as we could because the Indonesian people got worse and worse and worse, and they actually started killing some of us. So we went back to the Netherlands, but when we got there, the Netherlands had been bombed by the Germans so much, so there was so much housing shortage, and here comes all these people from Indonesia that are Dutch, and they wanted to have a house. And
Yeah.
they didn't like us. They rejected us. They said, "Well, we don't want you." So we didn't get any better after the war was over, other than that we didn't get, you know, threatened or anything. Yeah,
Right. So that's a pretty rough start in life
yeah.
to go through in that. And so when did you start experiencing things getting a little bit easier and a little bit easier? What's the first thing you remember being a as okay, life is getting better?
Well, it never got better for me because we were so poor and everything. It never really got much better until actually I went to Germany and I met my husband and I got married. But yeah, the only thing that was better is I didn't tell you that yet, but since when we got reunited in Indonesia after the war was over, and my dad took one look at me, and I was almost 3.5, and I was like the height and the weight of a 1-year-old, and I
Ooh.
was so weak I couldn't even stand up by myself. And he had not known that my mother was pregnant with me. So he refused to believe that I was his kid. He said, "She's not mine. I will not take any part of that." And so for until I was about 10 or 12, that's how he treated me. I was not his kid. And then one day I always had to have long hair with braid and all that stuff. And I didn't like that. So one day I was able to get my hair cut because we didn't have money for haircuts or anything. But one time I did. And my hair kind of fell, around my face and stuff. And I still remember I was standing in this one little room and my dad took a look at me and he said, "Yes, she is one of us." And I had no idea what that meant. Really, I didn't.
Hmm.
But she's one of us. Well, I don't know what that means. But anyway, I think after that, he started treating me just a little bit better.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to jump into the story of how you met your husband and what happened because I love this story.
Okay.
So as I recall, you and a friend went to Germany and
Mhm.
ended up in a bar.
Well, it wasn't really a bar like you have bars here, but it was a place where you can have drinks and you can go dancing and
Okay.
more like a club or
A
something like
dance
that.
club. Okay.
Yeah.
And you ended up there and you met some American soldiers. What happened next?
Well, this was on a Friday night, and our trip was supposed to be over on Saturday, I think. And we ran out of money, my girlfriend and I. And so I said to her, we need to find somebody who can buy us some wine because I have no more money. So this friend of Gary's walked over and he started introducing himself. And of course, he was an American, and I did not speak any English at all. I just didn't. But he asked if he could bring his friend, and my friend, she did speak some English, and she said, sure. So there he brought Gary. And at that time, he looked like a 16-year-old kid. And I said to my friend, I said, that's not going to work. He's too young. Well, he was like 22 or so, but he always looked at least way younger. And he had all the money because the friend was married and he had to send all of his money to his wife in the States. So Gary was the one who bought more wine, did, whatever, bought trinkets. And so after about an hour, he said, I like you. And that little I could understand, I like you. And then a little bit later, he said, I love you. And that I did not understand because how can you love somebody after just meeting him a couple hours? To me,
Mhm.
love means something bigger than that. And then a couple more, 2 or 3 more hours later, he said, will you marry me? And I honestly thought he meant, will you have another date with me? Will you marry, Merry? And I said, yes. So my friend took, when we got back to the hotel, she said, do you know what happened? And I said, no. So then she explained it to me. I said, oh, good. I get to go to America. I don't want to be in Holland anyway. So I get to go to America. So yeah, that's how it happened.
That's how it happened. And as I recall, you and Gary had a pretty darn good marriage.
We did. It was hard, and especially in the beginning, because I was, pulled away from my family, from friends. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have anybody that I could really ask for help because his parents lived in Arizona. We lived in Iowa. And calling my parents, first of all, they didn't have a phone. But secondly, they would have to go and find somebody who had a phone. But it was $9 a minute. And we couldn't afford, yeah, to make a long
Woo!
distance call. It was $9 a minute, and you had to go through the operator and say, okay, on that date, at that time, I want to call this number, blah, blah, blah. So we couldn't even just pick up the phone. So it was really hard. The first couple of years was really, really hard. But yeah, we were married for 56 years. And unfortunately, Gary had a brain aneurysm and he died just like that, just from one minute to the next. I couldn't even say goodbye. It was
Yeah.
just that was really heartbreaking because we had a good marriage. We had so many things in common. We both loved to travel and we did a lot of RVing, for 5, 6 months at a time. And we've been in every state of the union except New York State and the states above that. I haven't been in those, but
Yeah.
all the other states, including Hawaii and Alaska, I've been over there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, time to get you to the Northeast, right?
And Gary was so good. He knew that I didn't think too much about myself, that I couldn't do this, I couldn't do. He was always telling me that I could do things. He was showing me things. He was teaching me things. He was always, really making me feel very, very good. So, uh,
Aw.
yeah, I miss him.
I wish I could have met him. He sounds like
Yeah,
a fabulous guy.
he was. He was a
Yeah.
very, very nice guy. He was a very quiet guy. We were so opposite because he was more or less an introvert. And you know me, I'm an extrovert. So but somehow that worked out because, if you both have an extrovert or both an introvert, it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's definitely something to be said for that.
Mhm.
So, your book is called Hold On to Your Dream, right? Hold On to Your Dreams. And what's
Regard,
the subtitle?
regardless of your past.
Regardless of your past, right? So, what are the dreams that when you came over to the States, you first got married to Gary, what were the dreams that you had for yourself at that time?
Well, I wanted to be able to do things that I thought I could do because my parents had always told me, and this is really bad. My parents had always told me because I was so weak and so tiny, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I was too stupid for this and whatever. So I wanted to be able to do things that I wanted to do or that I thought I could do. So the first thing that I learned was learn to drive a car. Boy, that was really, first of all, in Holland, not too many people had cars, let alone let women drive the car, you know.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do that. And then I wanted to make some money so that I would feel I'm partaking in our marriage and not have him do all the work. So I went to a kind of a technical school where you learn how to type and be a secretary and things like that. And I did really well with that. And then I decided I wanted to become a psychologist. So that was a big, big jump because for somebody who is always told that you can't do anything, you
Yeah.
know, but I did. I became a psychologist. I even got my master's degree in it. So, yeah.
I love that. For those who are listening, I don't know if Zoom like kept it out, but I'm literally clapping here because I love that you didn't let all of those things get in your way. It almost sounds like it was maybe fuel to fire you to be like, oh, yeah, you tell me I can't do these things? Let me show you.
Well, let me back up a minute. When I was 17, I wanted to be a nurse in Holland. And my dad didn't like that at all. He just said, well, you just be somebody who wipe butts and whatever. But anyway, and then I with my mother, we had three hospitals that were like training hospitals.
Mhm.
And so I was 17 and she took me to the person who had to approve that I could be in that program. So she started out by saying, well, I don't know if she can follow your program because she's not very smart. And here I'm sitting right next to her. And so then the person said, no, maybe not. So then we went to the next one and she did the same thing again. We are looking for something, but I don't know if she can do it because she's not very smart. So then finally, the third one did allow me to come because it was more hands-on. We did a lot of where you really took care of the patients
Mhm.
and not so much on chemistry and all that other stuff. So, and I did a really good job. I enjoyed that. But yeah, I was told all the time. So when I wanted to become a psychologist, I kept hearing in the back, you can't do that. You're not smart enough, but you know.
But you didn't let it hold you back.
No, no, because Gary was really pushing me at that point. Not pushing me, but he was saying, you can do it. I know you can do it. I know you're smart, he would say.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So it sounds like part of holding on to your dreams maybe involves having a cheerleader in your corner.
You definitely need a cheerleader. And if you don't have one at that time, like I didn't have one until I met Gary, you need to find one. And what you really need to do is what I learned, you have to listen to or feel your intuition, because you have to kind of feel can I do this? And if your intuition says yes, because also, like I was telling before, um, how many people meet somebody in a club or whatever, and after 3 hours, tell them they get married to each other? I mean, and then trust that it's going to be a good marriage because I don't know. I could walk in here in any place. I don't know if after 3 hours, if I can say yes to anybody who proposes to me.
Yeah.
So my intuition though told me because he was a good guy. That's what my intuition told me.
Right. Well, and I think that's an important thing for people to pay attention to,
Hmm.
right? But how do you tell the difference between intuition and that scared little voice?
Well, my intuition told me, for example, to go to college. And my scared little voice said, I don't think you can do that. But I thought, well, I'm going to try. What can I lose? I'm going to try. So I went to the 2-year college and I signed up for, I think it was 5 classes in the very first semester. And I got a 3.8, no, 3.3 GPA. And I went to the head person and she said, well, that's not going to be very good because then you're never going to get into psychology program. So here I thought I did pretty good having, I was raising kids. I was going to school. I still had the language problem because I still have that to this date, that still don't understand everything. And then she tells me I can't, I'm not smart enough. So there I had to go again. Like my intuition says I can do it, but she says I can't. So I have to just try and see what happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, in doing that, how can people, if somebody's listening to this right now and they've got their intuition saying one thing, their scared little voice saying the other, how do they how did you end up telling the difference between? Was it just the one saying, go do this, go do it, and that's the calling?
No, of course, I had Gary who told me that I could do it, but I also had a couple of really good friends, and he was a psychologist himself, but he always was telling me, you need to try that. I know you're good with people, you like to help people. Just try it and see what happens. And they just kept telling me all the time, don't give up, just keep trying. And Gary did the same thing. You just have to keep on trying, and you have to get the right people in your little cream, little
Mhm.
circle.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah. So how has this continued to fuel what you're doing now? Because your kids are raised, as far as I know, you're not acting in the world of psychology anymore. You're retired from there. How are you continuing to hold on to your dreams? What are you doing now?
well, like I tell people, I'm going to be 83 next month, and I'm going to put on Facebook, I only have 17 more years to turn into be 100 years old, and I have so many dreams on my bucket list. I got to have 17 more years in my life, so I just keep trying.
Yeah. So what are some of the dreams that are still on your bucket list so that way we can check back in with you and make sure that you're following through?
Well, I want to do zip lining, but I don't want to be on one of little bitty, I want to have a real scary, adventurous zip lining thing. I did parachute jump, but I did a tandem jump, 12,000 feet. Yeah.
Ow.
And I like to do adventurous things. I would like to go River, what do you call that? Whitewater.
Oh, whitewater rafting?
Yeah, but I'm told that the water is too cold and I can't do that because if I get in cold water, then I get asthma attack and I die. So I can't do that.
Yeah,
But
let's not do that.
no, but I want to make sure that I get to see all the states that I haven't seen yet. And I want to see the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island because as an immigrant, I feel I should see those. And I
Yeah.
never did. And Gary did not want to go with me there because he doesn't like New York. He thinks it's a scary, dangerous place. He said, I'm not going to go there. So I told him, well, before I die, I'm going to go there with or without you. So I guess it has to be without him. But yeah.
As somebody who has been to New York twice, and I obviously survived, I think you'll do great. I think you'll love it there. Make sure go say hi to Lady Liberty for me because I got to see her about 20-ish years ago. But I had to see her from a distance because it was shortly after the 9/11 attacks. It was within 2 years. And so they still weren't letting anybody on the island. Like they would take the ferry around the island. So I was able to like wave at her and be like, hi, that's so cool. Took pictures, but they wouldn't let anybody on the island because they were too scared of what would happen back then. So, but
Yeah.
I think you'll love it because they're letting people back in, they're letting people back on. You should absolutely go do it. I think New York will be a fun place for you to go explore.
Well, Connie and I are planning on that, even maybe this year or else early next year, but we're planning to do that. So,
Oh, good. I can't wait. I'm going to be following you on Facebook so I can see all of your pictures. I want proof. I want proof.
well, don't worry. I'm going to do it because if that's the last thing I do in my life, I'm going to do that.
We uh, we're going to be here cheering you on. Cheering you
Well,
on. Absolutely.
thank
Oh
you.
my gosh. So, Francoise, before we let everybody know more about the book, what else do you want to share with the Badass Crew, our regular listeners, about following their dreams, holding on to them, you know, regardless of their past?
Mhm. Well, like I said before, you have to have dreams, even if it's just a little tiny dream, like
Mhm.
maybe I want to go on a trip to Utah or something, which is not very far from me. Set something up that's little that you can do more easily, and then
Yeah.
just keep spreading it out and do bigger and bigger dreams. But you got to have a dream, at least one little dream, and hold on to it and kind of work towards that, see how it's going to happen and how it can happen.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a super important piece of the puzzle is just know what your next dream is. What's the next piece? What's the next place you're going to go or next thing you're going to accomplish or person you're going to become along the way.
So Jordan Adler, well, I know you don't know Jordan
Yep.
Adler. But he said something about when he was younger, he had written down things that he wanted to do and put it away. And then later on he found, well, what happened with me is when I was a kid, I loved reading, and there was a lady that wrote books about America and all the things in America. And that's when I started having this dream, I want to go to America. So I think that's just what happened. Yeah.
I didn't know that part of your story. I didn't know that part of your story. That's so cool.
What
So you
part?
manifested it
Yeah.
through meeting Gary.
Hmm.
That is so fantastic. I love that. That's
Hmm.
amazing. Oh my gosh, Francoise. I can't wait. I mean, I feel like there's a dreams community brewing where people can come in and share with you what their dream is and what they're looking to do so that they can all support each other. I love that idea for you.
Maybe I should just start a YouTube group or something for people who want to work on dreams or something. I don't know how to do that, but yeah,
Hey, we'll figure it out. We'll find a way. We'll find a
because
way.
I think if you don't have a dream anymore, if you have nothing to look forward to, I live in a town here with older people, all widowers,
Yeah.
and I would say in 90% of the people, they have no more dreams, and they just sit there and they're bored stiff. And then they see me and they just like, what are you doing here,
Yeah.
So, but you've got to have something to live for. I mean, why even wake up and get out of bed if you don't have nothing to live for, right?
Right?
So,
I agree with that so much. So, the reason I had you on the show is because you do have this fabulous book. I mean, that I think is going to be very inspirational for anyone who chooses to read it. So, Badass Crew, what I'm saying to you is if you have found Francoise's story to be inspirational and you want more inspiration to get you off your duff and go after your dreams, and I recommend that you get her book. And I had to strong arm her that for this, but she's got 3 copies that she's going to gift to the first 3 listeners who reach out and fill out our Google form that we have. So, Francoise, thank you for being so generous and sharing 3 complimentary copies with 3 of our badass crew members. We're so excited to be able to share your story with a minimum of 3 people. I love this. And of course, if you're listening and you're like, I want this book, where do I get this book? We have the links, Badass Crew. Of course, we put the link for Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So pick your favorite place to get a book, or if you have a small local bookstore that you would like to support, go in and ask if they have it. If not, ask them to order it so that way you can get a copy through your favorite local bookstore as well. But we have the Amazon and Barnes and Noble links in the show notes. So all of my badass crew, they already know where the show notes are, but just in case this is somebody's first time listening, all you have to do is click on today's episode, whether you're listening through your phone or your computer or your tablet, it doesn't matter. Scroll under Francois' picture, and there you will see the link to either the Amazon or Barnes and Noble where you can buy your copy. And we also will have the link to the Google form where you can sign up and see if you're one of the first 3 people to get the book for free, because I'm going to leave it up for as long as possible. So that way we can make sure that we get enough people coming in to be the possible complimentary book recipient. So if it's still there, that means you got a shot at winning it, getting that. So, Francoise, thank you for being here and sharing your inspirational story.
well, thank you very much for having me. Can I just ask something differently? I don't know
Yeah.
if we should say the first 3 people or we are having a drawing for the first 3 people, because I think that's how it probably should be. Because
All
if
right, let's do a drawing then. So, what we'll do is this episode is coming out September 15th. So, we will leave up the Google form for 2 weeks until October. All right, we'll leave it up until October 1st. We'll do the drawing on October 1st and we'll announce the winner through the
yeah,
Badass Direct Sales Master, or the winners, the 3 winners, on the Badass Direct Sales Mastery page. I will invite Francoise and her marketing publisher guru, Connie, to come join us, and we will do a live on Facebook drawing on October 1st to get for the people who are on there. So if you see the Google form and it's between September 15th and October 1st, go fill it out. Go get it done, because you could be one of the winners on October 1st for Francoise's book. So thank you again, Francoise, for being here. I adore you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny, and that's mutual. I adore you very, very much. From the minute that I met you, I just knew, you're a special person.
Oh, I felt the same way too. I will never forget meeting you in the Denver airport for the
Oh, I
first
know.
time.
Oh my gosh. I was having a nervous breakdown.
She was
I
like,
couldn't.
"Where am I supposed to go?" I'm like, "Just look for the lady with purple hair. You can't miss me. I'm taller than almost everybody else here."
Mhm.
And then I see her waving in the distance. That must be you.
And
So
all the airports now, I have really a hard time finding my way around. So how I solve that is I'm asking for a wheelchair, even though I can walk. I ask for a wheelchair and they take me to where I need to go. So that's what I did. That's how I solved my problem.
so smart. I love it. It's brilliant. And of course, Badass Crew, make sure you go fill out the form so you can be one of the people or go buy the book. Six one way, half dozen the other. If you buy the book and win the book, you can gift it to somebody. Oh, darn. Help inspire one of your team members, a family member, a friend who is in need of some inspiration right now. I think this would be a fantastic way to do that. So, Francoise, again, thank you for being here. Connie, thank you for supporting and being here in a supportive background role during this conversation. And Badass Crew, thank you for listening, and make sure that you reach out, connect with Francoise on social media. Let her know that you found today's conversation to be inspirational, motivational, and let her know if you got the book, because I'm sure she'd love that. And Badass Crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned, because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.